this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill
Wait
no one.
a second.
Oh, no.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings, fellow viewers, as we finally wrap up our Horrorween for this year. 2020 Horrorween is going on much longer than normal, but then again, that's okay. We could use some extra Halloween in our Christmas.
To be fair, the whole year is going on longer than normal.
Yeah.
The whole year has been a horror show, so we might as well do this.
Yeah, I expect the month to flip from 12 to 13 after the end of it. Just keep going.
I'm half expecting to wake up all covered in fetus juice in the Matrix pod after this is over. Find out I have to do it all again.
But we are here to finally discuss the last two films of our Friday the 13th. We're starting with Freddy versus Jason, a film that many of us had been waiting for years. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw on this trailer for y'all. Let's take a look.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.
Welcome to my nightmare.
We're not safe awake or asleep.
Why won't you die? Freddy versus Jason.
Place your bets.
All right. So we're back on, and boom, there we go. So just thought I would show that off. That was an amazing experience back in the day when it was new. And so let's go ahead and get some first impressions. You know, I'm going to start with Jake because I'm sure this is literally your first impression of the film. Was it your first time?
It was the first time I'd seen it. And actually, this one, I guess we've got two whole franchises worth of background to go through. As we know by this point, I am coming to most of the Friday the 13th for the first time. I had seen the first two twice prior to, once prior to this, I think. With Nightmare on Elm Street, when we covered it on Movies Galore, I think that was my second time seeing it all the way through. And I've actually never seen any of the sequels in that series. So this was my second Freddy movie. So I'm missing a big chunk of the background that I know you guys have, but I've still got a fair bit in there. And my first impression was, well, for the longest time, I knew of this. And I always thought, well, that just sounds like a stupid idea for a movie. Because I didn't have the big love for the series that everyone else did. And I'm just like, well, it sounds like a cash grab if ever there was one. But when I saw it and I saw how they actually justified its existence somewhat with the way they set it up. I felt like they could have done a lot worse with the setup. I actually kind of liked the setup, so that was kind of cool. And overall, I liked it. Some of the main cast I enjoyed. Freddie is always a fun character. Robert Englund is a fun actor. So I do enjoy him in everything I see him in. Jason was kind of a lump on a log in this one. I mean, he was about the most boring Jason I've seen in the entire series. But in a way that almost worked as a foil to Freddie, you know. So overall, it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't. I'm not sure I want to say it was a good movie, but it was not. I enjoyed it for the most part.
All right, there. So, Forrest, was this your first time seeing this?
Absolutely not. Actually, I remember. Okay, so I remember when it came out. So I was here in New York when the whole big blackout, 2003 blackout happened. And I remember when the power came on, the very first thing I did was stand online to go see this movie. And I remember as soon as the theater went dark and the Nightmare on Elm Street and the New Line logo came up with the Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th themes, the whole audience was cheering. And then they were cheering every time Freddie and Jason fought each other. Like I was getting into it too. So overall I was like complete. At the time I was 15 at the time. I was just blown away because this is something that I've been waiting for years. And I remember reading a lot of the earlier drafts of the movie leaked out online, and I think overall I agree with Jake that I think the setup was perfect. Although one thing that's kind of bothered me over the years is that because when you have Freddie and Jason together in a movie, you expect a very high body count, and there was a high body count, but it was Jason doing most of the killing. Right. Freddie only killed one person on screen, and the other two were only mentioned. So that's one thing I would have done. That's one thing I think they could. I think one thing I would have done differently is that for the audience you're expecting two of the most famous horror movie villains fighting each other, but you also expect a high body count. Each of them to be racking up body counts. So I think they could have definitely done better on the Freddy side of things. But it's still a fun movie in the way that Godzilla versus King Kong or King Kong versus Godzilla or Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. It's definitely in many ways a throwback in many ways a throwback to those kinds of movies. That's I liked it.
I keep thinking about that Godzilla and let them fight.
Exactly.
So, Dave, was this your first time seeing this film?
No. This is about my third time seeing this film in its entirety. And I remember that a lot of the hype around the time that this came out. I mean, this was like the movie to like wait and go see. And I'm not sure if I saw this in the theater because this was around the time that I would have still been going to the theater for seeing some of the big films. And I don't think so. I actually think I watched this when it came out on like DVD or whatnot. And when I finally saw it, it was a good movie. I mean, it's not that it was a horrible movie. I mean, there were some corny moments. I mean, obviously, Jason was more of a puppet, but there were some funny moments. There were some definitely good kills, and I have fond memories of this film, at least in my retrospect, and seeing it again brought back some cool memories. So at least in my mind, I mean, you're going for the like superhero of the horror films here. I mean, this was the Marvel universe before it was Marvel, so so.
We can only hope for an extended
the
universe.
horror version of the Wolverine versus Hulk.
Yeah, into the nightmare verse, right?
I would love to see a good free for all where you've got like them slowly connecting all of the 80s horror film creations against each other. That would just been awesome.
I think it almost happened,
Yeah,
but the legal nightmare that was getting this one to even exist, I don't think we'd still be
The
waiting for
legal
the next
nightmare is
one.
one of the things that's keeping a new Friday the 13th from being released. So yeah,
Is that even over yet? I think it's
not
still
entirely.
going on.
No, it shut down the game. So hey, but Mo, is this your first time seeing this?
Oh no, I've seen this several times over the years. Probably a little more than it deserves. Because I had like friends that really liked it, I was hyped on it. Okay, of course, being like a little horror hound, I was super pumped on the end of Jason Goes to Hell as a little kid. I would probably one of the main reasons I would watch that movie repeatedly is just for that ending with the glove coming up and grabbing the mask and all that. Vividly remember being at Top Cat Video and reading in Fangoria that this was supposed to be a thing like a good solid 10 years before it was, So I guess I kind of love it in the way that I like Duke Nukem, where it is pretty friggin' subpar, but I was just hyped on it, because of the wait, and so I had to just go all in on it and enjoy it for what it is. It still breaks my heart that Kane Hodder's not in there, but what can you do? And I agree, Jason is just a big dung log throughout the entire movie. No one was expecting him to bust out a monologue or anything. Like, oh yeah, I got speech therapy, so now I can deliver lines. No one was expecting that. It's just, god damn, the dude just lumbers around out there. It looks cool for those scenes where he's like, kicking ass against Freddie and stuff. But I think it has fun kills. It's got a couple of fun characters in there. It's got, I guess, like. No, that's not a good thing either. This was like the last time Slipknot had cool masks too for a while. The Freddy versus Jason premiere, and I was so hyped that they had a song in there, and I think it's in like the end credits or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's Sick that's on there.
Yeah,
that whole soundtrack is bad. I have it on C. I still have it on me.
Dude, that's the only time I can remember a heavy metal band like come out some red carpet for a horror movie premiere, and I think they were wearing ties and stuff with their Slipknot jumpsuits and the masks, and so that's a good memory.
It's sort of like when, what was it? 3-6 Mafia? Was that the one that went to the Oscar?
They did.
Yeah, that was just a hilarious thing to see in a way. People who were like, why are we here? Then they win.
Right.
But that's what we need is have Slipknot come and get like a Oscar nomination for best song and then show up at the Oscars.
Dude, I guess. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I still say the Oscars missed the boat last year. They had an opportunity to have Jimmy Buffett and Snoop Dogg up there on stage together, and they missed it.
No, I want to see Guar perform at the Oscars.
That's what I was going to say. They went to the Grammys that one year for Saddam Go-Go, I think, and they tried to accost Jean-Luc Picard. Odorous did, and he wasn't having any of it, though. Just walked away.
So, Dustin, was this your first time seeing this film?
You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just double checking because my microphone said muted for some reason. So this is definitely not the first time I've seen this. The first time I saw this was in 2004, I think, on Sci-Fi Channel. So when I first saw it, it was kind of edited slightly. And this was before I was really like a big like horror slasher slasher fan. This movie was my introduction to Freddie too. I had never seen A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I remember just loving this movie. So it's like, oh, that's what these characters are like. Because I think it was only the second time I'd seen Jason in anything.
Wow.
So I have fond memories of this movie, and this was a movie that I felt comfortable like watching and showing to people back when I was new into horror. So because it's not like overtly gory. It's more of it's almost more of an adventure kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
And there's a lot to like in this too, even though it gets kind of dunked on here and there.
Well, I think mine's
Hey,
even
Fu.
weirder when it comes to this.
Was this Fu's first time?
No, Fu has seen it a couple of times. But for me, it's interesting because 2003, I'd gotten out of grad school, and I had just managed to find work after 6 months of looking and thinking and applying to places like McDonald's and stuff like that which wouldn't hire me because I was had a master's degree. So I ended up seeing this film and as a celebration of getting work, because I actually started my first full-time mental health position when this released, pretty much almost to the day. So this was my celebration film. It's funny because at the time I had first off never seen a Friday the 13th film prior to this. And I had only seen Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. The only reason why I saw that so much is because it played on TV on repeat forever. And I just kept running across it. So I was not as familiar with the characters as far as people who watched the films had at the time, but I was familiar with their reputation. And that's what brought me to it. It's this seems like it'd be a really fun film. And it was a fun film. Later on, when I got to watch the other films and see it again a couple of times, it was a better experience because I was actually able to draw from both series those little Easter eggs they kind of threw in there, which made it a little bit more fun. But it really was a fun thing. It was great being in the theaters, feeling that energy, as Forrest was saying, people cheering at the stuff. It just you couldn't help but be drawn into it. It was really was really a fun experience. It's probably one of the tamer of the movies, really kill-wise. So,
and I went to a daytime showing, so there's probably 4 other people in there. I don't remember any cheering, which is unfortunate.
I was just going to say, I could see this being a fun midnight movie to see.
Oh, yeah.
It'd been much better.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd have loved to gone to the Bird if this was a midnight movie.
Yeah.
I mean, those people, I'm telling you, the experience they have there, it's like an old theater, old school. They even have a Wurlitzer, a pipe organ type thing,
Right.
And they got the guy who plays it like they would in the old days. And they show these midnight showings of older films for $1 or $2 a piece, at least back in those days.
No, the midnight ones now I think are $5 or $6, but that's still not much.
Yeah, not bad at all.
So, you go in there and it's people going in there. A lot of them are fans. A lot of them are drunk students. It's just people who know the films, love the films, and you can feel it in the energy. They'll start, sighing at the right places and doing that. So that would have been an excellent experience, I could say. It was similar to that.
Except for Brazil. No one was getting into Brazil. It was disappointing.
In all fairness, it's hard to get into Brazil. So
the part where Robert De Niro disappears in a flurry of paperwork, I could see people cheering at that because that scene's great. Anyway,
with that, let's talk about the movie itself. So we have kind of two two things clashing with each other, but mainly it starts off really after the Friday the 13th series Nightmare on Elm Street series kind of wraps up with Freddie kind of being forgotten from the populace, and they kind of established that through the end of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, that he's got to be kind of known to really be as effective. I cannot. It's been so long since I've seen Freddy's Dead, which, New Nightmare, you gotta have to throw that one to the side, much like I guess Jason X, yeah.
They're one-off sequel. They're more like more one-offs.
So this was more of a kind of a continuation from Freddy's Dead, where he's coming back and he's trying to, but he's got to figure out how to scare people up again. So he hatches a pretty cool plan, utilizing Jason by haunting his dreams and utilizing his mother to resurrect Jason and have him come over to Elm Street and just start doing his rampage of killing. People start talking about Freddy. Freddy's back in business. Only problem is he kills too many people, and Freddy's like, "Those are my kills, darn it!" And then the rivalry begins.
Right.
So, what did y'all think of the basic concept that they put together? Because this really is more of a concept and a bunch of slaughter at that point that gets them together for that fight.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that definitely people should know going in, I guess, spoilers, by the way, but, it's called Freddy versus Jason, but really for most of the film, they're not really fighting each other, although you get, and I actually appreciated this, and this is, again, part of the way where Englund is a fun actor, and he really sold this. Just getting more and more and more PO'd. Jason's just getting out of control. It was kind of fun there.
Well, he needed people to remember him to even exist, and he was starting to get forgotten. So using Jason as a instigator to get people know at least knowing about him again was kind of a good idea, I mean, I do like that. I mean, although it did kind of make it seem like Camp Crystal Lake wasn't that far from Elm Street,
I know.
Not that far from New York either, though, man. So.
That's something that bothered me. It's like, so Springwood's in Ohio. I'm guessing somewhere near Cleveland, and they drive to Camp Crystal Lake, which is in New Jersey, in a matter of. Well, not normally that would take about 8 hours. It would take about 8 to 10 hours to get there, but they got there probably within like half an hour.
Well, what you don't really know is that in order to avoid the Pennsylvania, what do they call that? The toll road, whatever the Pennsylvania.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And that and in order to avoid the toll road in Ohio, they've created a wormhole that gets you straight through both states to New Jersey, and they use that for this movie.
That's probably
rare Rick and Morty shit or something.
Who did Brad and Chucky? And that one they had the protagonist driving from Illinois to New Jersey,
right?
Also in a very short amount of time.
My theory is they've just all shrunk it into a tri-state area, like it's just all right there for the sake of not making it a road trip movie,
But yeah, Mo, you've got a good point though. I could definitely see Rick creating wormholes to avoid tolls.
Yes,
right. Or accidentally zipping them into this movie and just be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Morty. We gotta get the hell out of here this time."
I want to add that I was kind of that as far as Freddie using his mother to manipulate him was I like that, but I was always bothered by it that they didn't bring Betsy Palmer back to play the they didn't bring Betsy Palmer back to play the role.
Well, they asked her, but they didn't want to pay her.
I heard something. From what she was saying that they didn't. If you had apparently she had said that New Line never approached her to play the role to reprise the role. But he said she said
Yeah.
The story I heard was that she thought it was like beneath her dignity or something.
Because I remember seeing the interview in that Crystal Lake Memories one where she was like, "Well, they weren't going to pay me for the role, and it's such a small role. I mean, you get to say like 2 lines.
A little more than 2, but yeah.
Yeah,
a little paycheck's better than no paycheck, though.
Yeah.
Betsy, come on.
but yeah, it was no paycheck, so yeah.
I can't buy a lot with nothing. That's
Yeah, having read the earlier drafts of some of the rejected scripts for this movie, which had really needlessly complicated setups, this one was perfect.
So I do like the concept that they put forth of Jason and Freddie being approached by the devil with the thought of, okay, one of you is going to be my agent on Earth. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put y'all back on the surface, and the one with the highest kill count gets to be my agent, and the other one has to come back down here. I liked that concept.
Yeah,
that was a really cool concept.
I mean, overall, I think the setup they do here, the whole overall concept of him using Jason, it works and it makes sense. I mean, you know, it's not like he can probably interact with other people's dreams, but Jason's brain probably is like made out of that shit that gets under your fingernail when you like smash it and it turns all black. So I'm pretty sure it's like a rudimentary squirrel brain in there, right? You can just easily interact with it even on low power. So that element makes sense.
Dumbo's brain is very compact.
Is it in this? Is it in this one or the comic book? I forget, where he's just ravaging his mom's corpse against the tree there too. That I mean, we never would have got that without the. I think it was. It's pretty friggin' terrible, man. They're worth reading if you're a fan of the movie, and you got Ash shows up in those eventually.
Yeah, pretty sure that's the comic. Freddy versus Jason versus Ash is a direct sequel to this.
Nice.
Yes, good stuff.
I don't like that it opens with the deaths of the 2 leads. Like they get away and then they kill him in like the first 2 pages of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash.
Well, to be fair, I didn't care for the 2 leads. I didn't care for the 2 leads of this movie.
Well, I mean, they locked away most of the people who were supposedly exposed to Freddy. It's sort of like a quarantine thing. They locked them away for life and just tell people that they moved away. So, of course, our final girl is like thinking that her boyfriend just moved out and then stopped talking to her.
Right.
Whereas in reality, they locked him up in a mental institution.
I love the breakout in there. I love how that blonde kid just goes ape shit.
Yes,
literally.
You know, I'm always a fan of proper artful mooning. You know, you don't just bare the ass. You gotta plaster it to the glass too. Okay, it's a 2-piece project there, and that guy nailed it. I think it even had that like as he like moved it across the glass. Like he just couldn't do it. You know?
Good times, yes.
It was.
Yeah. And then, of course, that dude was Brendan Fletcher, who's been in a lot of stuff over the years, and he's pretty cool. I don't know about Will, Jason Ritter. He was the main guy. He's kind of boring, but I rather liked Lori, the survival girl, and she's played with Monica Keena. She's been in some good stuff too over the years, but. Apparently in something called Klaus Eats Butterflies. I'll have to see that. That sounds fun. But, yeah, some of the other cast were pretty fun and some of them not so much. You know, you've got the initial group. You've got Lori and her friend Kia and her friend Gib and then a couple of jerks that one of them's Gib's boyfriend. I can't even remember their names and who really cares. I actually liked Gib. She was kind of a fun character in a sense.
I like the stoner guy.
Oh yeah, great value, Jason Mewes. That guy's awesome.
Great value, Jason Mewes.
The whole thing where Freddie does the caterpillar thing with the that just to me it was great because you got to see in that scene a little bit of the kind of odd and twisted sense of humor. and creativity that Freddie uses in the other films. You don't see it as often in here, but you definitely see it a lot in the previous films.
With that stoner humor too, it is almost like a callback to that Anagata DeVita moment in Freddy's Dead. You know, the dude gets sucked into the TV. That's always going to be like a favorite movie in that franchise, or a scene in the franchise. I mean, it's not the favorite movie. I don't think Freddy's Dead is anyone's favorite.
My favorite line in any movie is when he's going in there, he's coming up there, and he's like, "Where's the fucking bourbon?" And, he's yelling out because of the mimic the stepdad. Like I said, they're a fun combination because you've got really the kind of more serious Jason and the wisecracking Freddy. And you have some cool like kill scenes throughout. You've got them escaping from the mental institution, which unfortunately helps spread the Freddy word, which is what Freddy was hoping for. They end up having to going to this interesting cornfield party, which I thought was pretty cool there. And I think that's really when Freddy really starts to get PO'd about Jason taking his kills from him.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Gib was the first major one where he straight up said, "That was my kill."
Yep.
And he just got really, really miffed at it. There was...
Because they were recreating that first scene a little bit from that first movie, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, where he tries to like extend his arms and stab him, which of course isn't doing anything because he's not strong enough. But I like that kind of nod back to the first film.
He's having some extendile dysfunction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I liked that shadow attack. I liked that shadow attack scene. That was really cool.
Yeah, that is super neat.
That's a CGI effect, but actually still, I think that still holds up.
Does
fairly well. So
that caterpillar holds up.
not so hot.
I thought it was one of those creatures from Avatar, man. It looks so good and detailed and really popped off the screen.
They missed an opportunity though with the whole like you guys saying, like the wisecracking smartassery of Freddy and whatever. He should have had that caterpillar come in and go be something like, "Who are you?"
At least they didn't do that with the caterpillar and like have it be like weird and lame. It was more like just. It was more like just to its like Alice in Wonderland kind of roots where it just shows up and.
Yeah. I will say one thing that I'm not an expert on the Elm Street films. I've seen, the first one basically. But I do like the way that they handle in this one and in that one, and I'm guessing the rest of the series, whatever. I do like the way they handle the dream sequences. It's like typically it's a dream sequence, but not always. They do occasionally get you. But they're usually suitably creepy. Like there is that sort of menacing undercurrent through those scenes, and I think it works pretty well. And it was kind of an interesting melding of styles between those two, where you have those, but you also had the typical, run from Jason sort of things.
Oh yeah. Well, that cornfield scene was like a high kill count scene.
I love it. He slices through that beer keg. That's like it's beautiful.
And that was the part with the flaming machete, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll admit, you can't go wrong with a flaming machete.
That they kept going out and they kept Go ahead, Forrest. You were saying?
I said he was walking around the whole cornfield on fire.
Right.
Really well shot. A really well shot moment.
And one of the things for the actor they chose for Jason, it was, in a way, a lot of us wanted Kane Hodder for the role. I didn't know I wanted Kane Hodder until later, but I did then. But they wanted this because of the imposing height. Because Robert Englund is not a short dude by any means. This guy was towering over Robert Englund, but that's what they wanted. They wanted him to look more imposing, whereas I think Kane Hodder was not as tall, or was close to the same height.
He wasn't as tall as Ken Kersinger.
Yeah, he's like I think Kane Hodder is like only 3 inches taller than Robert Englund.
So it wouldn't have necessarily been like an obvious, though. I think you could have done some affected. I mean, you can do dwarves and Lord of the
Just dig a
Rings.
hole in the ground for the close-ups, man.
Well,
Put
yeah, I
friggin'
mean,
Robert in the hole.
What was there was a recent film that we did on Movies Galore. It might have been Last Samurai, because Tom Cruise is a short dude. But like I remember we talked about a film where they had done tricks with the camera work and whatever to make the heights look a little more evened out. You know, there are tricks you can do for that. I will say, like, with the, and you guys can tell me if you agree or disagree on this. Y'all are more Jason connoisseurs than I am, but I felt like the makeup was weaker in this one in terms of the Jason looked different, significantly different, I thought. And I just thought that the makeup effects just looked, well, less imposing than some of the other films.
I actually like his look in this one. Like, he's got kind of a Frankenstein thing.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Especially if you have the figure, like, it's really obvious because if you have the figure, you'll notice he's got like all kind of platform boots.
Yeah.
To further boost his height. But he's more of a zombified Part 4 Jason in this one.
Right.
Like, we don't really see him with his mask off, but again, on the figure, if you take the mask off, it's pretty much the Part 3, Part 4 head. So I personally like his look in this one.
I don't know, man. I think it bummed me out how close some of the Halloween costumes were to, like, if you just spray it with a little water or something, make it wet, they look pretty damn close to the Jason in the movie, which it shouldn't be that easy to pull off with some Spirit Halloween shit, you know? It's just, I don't know. I'm still very heartbroken it's not Kane Hodder. I fully disagree on it being more imposing because he's taller. If Kane got out there and heaved his chest a couple of times, he's going to be just as imposing, you know? So
the other thing was that the director wanted to give Jason more of an emotional character. They really wanted to take Jason in a different direction. And
They wanted
I know
more
it sounds,
they failed.
which is, by the way, why they introduce a fear of water that Jason has not had in any movie.
biggest gripe right there. I think it's more likely the case that they spent a lot of money, they hired Robert Englund, one of those chicks from Destiny's Child, and probably didn't want to pay Kane, you know? So they got...
Yeah,
that's the real secret. If the rest of Destiny's Child had been in this movie, they'd have taken both of them, you know?
That's what I knew her from. I couldn't remember. Yeah.
She's got a dirty mouth in this movie. It's
Yeah, apparently that was her ad lib too. And
hasn't held up well.
No, it has not. And on the commentaries, they really regret letting her do it.
Dude, it was one of those things. Even at the time, it's like, you know, I was like, whoa, because you don't usually hear that thrown around in those movies. I mean, I definitely heard other.
You don't drop the actual F-bomb.
Yeah. Wow, she got what she deserves though for it.
That was a good kill. Where
it was
making fun of Freddie, and Freddie's like, and she looks behind her, and Jason's just like, kablam.
So sweet, dark meat.
Yeah, this movie definitely. This movie needed somebody to go over some of the dialogue because there was a lot of dialogue that was just oof. Like I think the worst offender is you're like a big stupid dog who can't stop eating even though your master says you've had enough. And she says it. He says it just like that, and it's like, ugh. Couldn't you have phrased that better?
Oh, look at that! It's
so clumsy.
I think they kind of phoned in some of it because they figured we wouldn't care, you know, but we do. We do.
The director wanted to make this a more artistic piece, which I don't get that. Again, right. What are you directing here, really? And you know, I don't think
Ronnie Yu.
Yeah, Ronnie Yu.
It's like I said, they tried to give Jason a more emotional character by doing a lot of the flashbacks, giving him a fear of water to make him more human and relatable.
I kind of wanted to make him into the hero of the movie.
They did, and it kind of was in many senses. You were kind of pushed to root for Jason over Freddie.
I think that would have happened anyway with that little bald-headed baby Jason sobbing in the fetal position, though. I feel like we could have got there without that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's why this movie was ultimately in the Nightmare on Elm Street collection before it was in the Friday the 13th collection, because it definitely is more of a Freddy movie than it is a Jason movie.
Sure.
Well, it's also a real-line movie, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it in the Freddy collection? Hold on, I'm gonna go check.
Yeah. Well, it's in It's in the collections I have.
It's in the 2 8-film things.
The 4-film collection.
I'm pretty sure it's in the 8-film collection.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually I have the Blu-ray set, and it's actually not in the Blu-ray set. It's like a separate release.
It's in the DVD collection that came out before the Blu-ray release. So.
Oh well, maybe then.
That's kind of weird.
Well, yeah. What they did is they did 1 through 4, and then 5 through Freddy versus Jason in those 4 film packs, and then they packaged it up all artistically in the 8-film pack, and then they came out with the Blu-ray set. So it was like. Yeah.
I have the Nightmare Encyclopedia bonus disc that came with that, and I still have to watch through it because it is a labyrinthine mess.
Oh my!
If anything, I would need a play all feature. It was that.
I have those 2 4-movie sets. I need to watch those eventually. It'll be fun.
The series is pretty good. A lot of people like Freddy becomes kind of a jokester after a point. So even though he's killing people in gross ways, you're still kind of on Team Freddy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, to be honest, Robert Englund was always kind of a jokester. Even in the series B, he was a comic relief character. So when he turned into Freddy, I mean, it was a little different for him. I mean, it was definitely a different role, but then his comedy side came out. So
yeah, it's actually funny. This wasn't my first Robert Englund movie. He was in this Disney movie called The Paper Brigade, where he played like a cranky old neighbor.
Oh yeah, dude.
And he was also in Python, which is about giant snakes. And I had seen him in Python. I had seen him in The Paper Brigade. But I didn't know he was Freddy. And so when I saw this, it's like, there's something really familiar about Freddy. What?
Nice.
And then like years later, it was like, oh! And I told him that when I got to meet him last year, and I don't think he got it. But he did like light up about Python. He was like, oh yeah, I got over my fear of snakes on that movie. That was great.
Good times. And of course, we've already covered another classic one of his, the Behind the Mask, which is a good, fun role there.
Englund is a wonderful character to have in it, and I mean, a lot of these characters, they started out more serious than they were, and we've discussed this as we've gone through here as well. Is that they kind of made this from a standard slasher into something that you don't take seriously, something that's not so much horror, almost comical in some ways. It's worse so in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, where those first 2 movies really do really try hard to take themselves seriously. After that, they kind of stopped. Child's Play only got 1 movie where they did that. And then they kind of just like, wait, this is a talking doll. It ain't
trying to remember the other movie I'm looking for. There was another one that we saw with Englund in it where I feel like he was rather amusing. I know it's one that you got, Brandon, like super cheap at Food Lion or something.
2 that immediately come to mind is Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer.
That one, yes. That was the one. Jack Brooks Monster Slayer.
He turns into that big creature.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a good one. A horror movie hero that has anger management issues.
I like how he's talking about punching the shit out of his toaster in that one scene.
So, with that being said, we get into the fight between Freddie and Jason, because that's really where it is. I mean, the caterpillar is used to take control over the stoner, and the stoner basically is possessed by Freddie, loads himself up on like a whole bunch of sleeping meds, and then jacks Jason up with it. Now, I've read two different views of how the trip from where they are, from Elm Street to Crystal Lake, went. One view was, we hope nobody notices the difference. And the other view was, well, of course it was a long road trip. They actually took a much longer time than what you think. Jason was out for days doing this fight with Freddie. And I'm like, I don't know if that's viable considering the fight. But the fight itself, I really think that was what we were all waiting for. We were kind of like, we're done with the filler, get to the fight.
Get on with it.
And what did y'all think of the actual fight between Freddie versus Jason when they finally start in the dream and then bring him out into the real world?
Well, that's cool. I mean, there's that chuckle where the like pinball part.
Pinball
Yeah,
machine,
it's just amazing. I love how they're like thinking they're gonna have to go in some mouth to mouth there for a minute. I'm always a fan of stuff like that. But the fight itself was pretty awesome, I think, start to finish. The actual thing, especially once they got him to Crystal Lake and shit was really getting real. There's some fairly iconic moments in that, I think.
Oh, it's such a great fight. Like I love the fight. I think maybe my favorite part of the fight is how it starts off with Freddie just kind of like, uh-oh. Like it's the face that Robert Englund makes. He's like, and then Freddie stabs Jason a couple times and he's like, ha! And Jason just grabs him and like punishes him.
Especially like that part where he does a jumping elbow drop onto Jason. Like that's gonna do it. He's like,
Freddie knows.
I like how like Freddie's used to people like dying when he stabs them just like once or twice, and he seems almost completely completely taken by surprise. It's like, wait a minute, when Jason just like takes it.
Well, even says, "Why won't you die?" Even in the dream world, he can't kill him. He's like, "What's wrong with you?
What's going on?"
But to me, it's interesting because after watching all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I have to say this is probably the most dangerous Freddy's ever been outside of the dream world.
Yeah,
because he usually basically gets beaten down as soon as he leaves.
We get to see Demon Freddy for a little bit, which he doesn't make an appearance all too often. So Freddy has like this demonic form of horns, and he takes it momentarily after Jason's been saved from him in his dream.
Yes,
he's kind of like New Nightmare Freddy for a moment there.
New Nightmare is underrated in many ways, I think.
Oh yeah, I'd say it's the best. Actually, I'd say New Nightmare.
I really think that New Nightmare was the first attempt to do Scream, really, if you think about it. It was one of the first self-aware horror films, and I really liked it for that.
That came before Scream, didn't it?
Yes.
A couple years.
It did. So, so Jay, if you want something else to look at that's fun, I think you've got that one, don't you? Didn't I give you a bunch of Nightmare on Elm Street movies?
I think I have all of them. I think so.
So yeah, you should definitely check out New Nightmare. It's
I'll be right back.
A little less gory than the others, and it definitely tries to do what they did with Scream, which is kind of cool.
One thing I want to mention, talking about when things came out and whatever, I'm going to have to mention that I was very surprised to find out this was an 2003 release, because I can swear,
growing out of him like weird. His kind of looks like his hands looks like Lord Zed almost from Power Rangers a little bit.
But it's like, again, talking about, like we were talking about earlier, how much hype there was behind this. I was not a horror fiend growing up. I was not a horror geek, whatever. But I swear I saw this film advertised much sooner than its actual release. I'm quite sure of that. I just can't remember in what context.
The only one I know for sure was I saw that Fangoria article at the video store, like I was talking about, and I remember sitting there reading it, like it is going to happen, you know, maybe in the next couple of years.
See, I had no freaking clue what Fangoria was back then.
I was lucky enough they stocked it in there, and then they went out of business, and I was screwed until Game Crazy came around, and for some reason they had it in there. Yeah, I mean, I feel like with this one, whatever flaws you could say that it has, because it does have them. It's the fight pays off, you know.
Oh, it was an awesome fight. Most people I've known that have watched this said they love the fight when they get to it. What about?
Go ahead.
I was saying, go ahead, Mo.
Oh no, it's solid, you know. I've got plenty. The water thing is stupid. Serious lack of the rest of Destiny's Child. You know, it's not no Kane Hodder as Jason, but we've got that fight, man, and there's all types of crazy shit going on. I like when he's like knocking the ends off of those acetylene tanks and firing them at him and shit. I mean, they got creative.
I love that. How about you, Dave? What are your thoughts on the fight?
My thoughts on a fight is it was I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I love that fight where Jason had been thrown in this pit and it has all kinds of pipes and shit, and he's just flinging this like big water tank looking thing around, and then of course the thing moves on its own and keeps tipping some of the mining equipment, and
he gets stabbed up with a bunch of rebar.
I do like that Freddie realizes, wait, I don't control stuff here. It's not going the way I want, because the thing he wanted to go down just stopped. He's like,
give me a break. Oh.
But I also like that. I also like the fact that that some of the fight was somewhat cartoony, like Roadrunner, like Wile E. Coyote kind, because he
a little bit.
He really let him have that big ass. I don't know what it was, but it flattened him for a moment. And that was kind of funny.
So they do a good job of combining like that comical Freddy shit with the visceral Jason stuff into a fight that is pretty well balanced for the most part. I don't know. I like that there's still debate on who wins. I've always looked at it as a draw, but you know, each their own.
I like that the ending where you see Freddie get stabbed by his own arm.
Well, uses Jason's machete.
Yep, exactly. Because she had the machete, but of course he was disarmed earlier by Jason, and so Jason had to pick up Freddy's arm to use it as an implement and stabbed him through the chest with his arm.
Yeah, I like how Jason takes like a beat like after he does that, just like, got him.
Yeah. That was a sweet move. I hope someone saw that.
Or just appreciating his work, like, finally got him.
Right? Like, I hope I left one of them alive to see that shit.
That's the way it would be a lot of times. Those type of horror movie type monster characters, they never really do well as a team up. It was one of the things I thought was interesting. This is back in when they did the Spider-Man Batman crossover, one of them, and it was Carnage and the Joker, and people were thinking to themselves, Carnage and the Joker would team up together. And it depends on the take. Like, I think the Dark Knight Joker would have been perfectly happy teaming up with Carnage.
Maybe.
But the other Joker, the comics Joker, was more of a, there's no style. What are you doing? It has to be stylish. It has to be like there, and because of that, they just ended up fighting each other more than it ended. That's how these monsters end up going.
Oh, yeah, it's akin to like when wrestling heels team up for a bit, you know. And there is the definite like pro wrestling, you know, / classic monster approach to this. I mean, he even throws that elbow drop, man. I mean, it's, you know, so I think it's just the sort of bad guys teaming up, no matter what the context. Eventually, their own interests are going to get in the way, and they're going to become enemies after a while.
Well, like, you know, like you use Joker as an example. One of my favorite team ups, partly because it was so there was no future to this. was during the Nightfall story where Joker and Scarecrow teamed up, and they did not like each other one.
They kidnapped the mayor. That's so good.
Yeah.
He just got them all dosed up on Scarecrow juice. He's just having some horrifying hell ride as they friggin' blow up this tunnel.
Right.
So for that, I think they really hit it on the head. Is that those types of team ups? They never last. They always end up breaking down at the end.
Oh yeah,
and that's exactly what happened. They teamed up, didn't work. Does anybody have anything to say on this other plot wise before we move on to special effects and music? Well, go ahead, Mo.
Oh, I was just gonna say, have you guys heard of like the alternate ending with Pinhead? That potentially could have happened.
That would have been more expensive just to allow like a 2-minute cameo character.
I would have been
rad.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to see them do a kind of a full-on 80s monster movie group. You could even kind of throw in Michael Myers, because though he started in the 70s, he really was more of an 80s slasher character. Actually, Myers and Jason would be the most interesting mashup because they're so alike. So you have to wonder who is tougher, you know.
It's pretty rad fan-made short film that does that. I thought it was quite enjoyable, so I don't know what it's called. You guys will have to search that up on your own, but it exists.
We did see that Freddie, Jason, Michael, and Ghostface did make a pretty good boy band, you know, in that one video.
Yeah. You know, their time with that chick from Destiny's Child and got them some inspiration.
Exactly.
We touched on special effects some with the caterpillar, the flaming machete, Jason's costume and makeup, and we had mixed thoughts throughout. But what are y'all's thoughts on the special effects in general?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I dig them. As far as individual kills, I especially like that bit where he folds that guy up in that bed. He makes like a good shriek sound too, and it's hard to watch.
That guy was a dick too.
He really was.
He deserved it.
I don't know. I enjoyed all the kills. I mean, nothing too spectacular. All of it's pretty sort of standard fare, I guess, for both of them at this point. But they were all done pretty well. Yeah. Got to see a dude get cut in half. They did that pretty decently, I suppose.
And also Scott Farkas got killed.
Wait, which one?
Oh yeah, that's the same guy, isn't it?
Yes, Zach Ward.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the kid from Christmas Story and the actor's face, and I know who it is all of a sudden. I just never made that connection before. Holy crap. I learned something today.
That was his first ever screen credit was Scott Farkas. Isn't that something? Yeah.
What about music?
Oh, he's excellent. You had the class.
You know, serious lack of Destiny's Child, bro. Should have just been bumping on all through the soundtrack.
Right.
Song right in the middle would have been perfect.
Age.
Right.
I do like having the metal aspect to it. I think metal really goes well with these type of movies.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. And let me tell you, the hype was real. Like I mentioned it for a reason. That was like a huge, because I was massively into Slipknot, and they were involved. I mean, I'll never forget that red carpet shit with them out there. And it was right before they switched over to the lamest masks in their career, but they were like hinting at it. Like Corey had the Roman numeral 3 like face painted on top of his mask, and it was an exciting time for that. And there was other, I think it wasn't like a Dima on the soundtrack. Did one of you guys say Killswitch Engage was on there as well?
Yeah, Killswitch Engage is on there. My favorite song is the one they play on the credits, Il Nino.
Oh, El Nino.
How can I live?
So that was introduced into the Resident Evil movie, which I think Slipknot had that. That was Slipknot, wasn't it?
I think they had a song on there, yeah.
Yeah. It was just, like I said, I thought it was pretty cool having a metal soundtrack. I think they started going towards that when they had that Alice Cooper stuff going on.
Part 6.
In Part 6. I think that's where they were going.
Meryl Street 3.
Done?
Because it's a step up. It really is a stepping stone to go to those things. You kind of have your classic, and then kind of those bands like Alice Cooper, and those are kind of predecessors to kind of harder stuff. I mean, they call them hard rock back in those days, even though they're not very hard at all if you're really thinking about it these days.
Well, I feel like around this time, because like you're saying, it makes sense. They were doing like the hair rock or shock rock stuff back in the 80s, and then the early millennium stuff was right when nu metal was a thing. Yep. So it felt like every horror movie that came out around that time had the obligatory nu metal song on the soundtrack. But this really kind of embraced it, whereas the soundtrack is like worth having as its own thing.
Just like every comedy had to be pop punk.
Yeah, right. Let's throw some Newfound Glory in there or whatever, and just get it over.
41. Yep.
Oh gosh. What was it? Oh gosh. Yeah, too many. Any case, favorite scenes, so we can move on to other things. So let's start with Dustin. What's your favorite scene from this movie?
I'm sure everybody's going to say the fight, because the fight is wonderful. But naming something other than the fight, I think I like the opening exposition, actually, because it's already kind of a difficult to accept concept, and Freddie just lays it out, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And it actually makes the rest of the movie, as ridiculous as it can get at times, make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, plus just the, now knowing what I know now, just like the hype that there must have been during that moment as I searched the depths of hell. I remember that. I remember that monologue too. That's a good monologue.
Yep.
How about you, Dave?
I like to think when Jason killed the girl in the cornfields, and Freddy's like, no, that was my soul.
She was mine. Oh! I like how whenever he does the Freddy voice, I just wanted to make this quick point. Whenever he does the Freddy voice, he always puts kind of a scream on it, like Freddy's always talking like this.
And
yeah, he does kind of have that where it's like an elevated tone to it.
Yeah,
I do like to think that my other favorite scene is when the Destiny's Child girl is talking to Freddie, and she's like insulting him
before getting destroyed.
Yeah, well, they all get destroyed sometime, right?
Jason canceled her ass. That's what happened.
So, how about you, Mo? What's your favorite scene?
Oh, well, like Dustin, I appreciate a good monologue, and I really appreciated Jason's in the van when he was like, and he's like coughing up the water. That was pretty riveting. I don't know, man. I think if I really had to choose, probably just the whole cornfield sequence outside of the main fight, Yeah,
that's probably
just everything about it is awesome. I like the idea of Jason running up on people in the middle of like some party, which it feels like they haven't done a ton. The remake, which we're about to talk about too, I guess that's them just, camping as opposed to being at a camp. So that's what makes it different. It's not really a party. But that kid runs into him in the weed field. We'll get there. But I just like the idea of that, him stumbling upon a kegger and just killing everyone, It wouldn't be a bad way to go. So that'd be my vote.
I want to add something real quick too. When you were talking about the scene where they have to give him like mouth to mouth, and the one character goes, "I can't do it. I have asthma," and the guy driving just turns and shouts, "He has asthma, Kia!" Like he just accepted it so fast.
We didn't talk about Linderman. He was kind of
that was the actor who said its favorite line. Like he said he loved it because it made like no sense. Like the urgency he says it with. He has asthma.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. The whole idea of that scene is just rad too, because like obviously they've been trying not to get killed by the dude, and now they've got to try to keep him alive because how else are they gonna deal with Freddy? It's just a good setup.
What about you, Jake? What's your favorite scene?
Kind of hard to say what my favorite is. I'll admit the fight was fun. I probably am leaning a little more toward the cornfield sequence. Just some of the visuals with that were pretty fun. And that moment of Freddie going, "She was Mike," that was kind of fun. There were, I think it was Dustin kind of ragged on the dialogue overall, but I feel like there were a few little parts that at least made me smile or made me chuckle. Linderman had one of them where, like, all those frat dudes had forced him to drink heavily. And he was like, "I was playing a drinking game with some of the lower primates. I guess I was penalized for my ability to read above a 4th grade level." Nice little burn there. And there was one moment I enjoyed just because it was very real near the beginning where it's like, Gibbs drinking and smoking. "Gib, what are you doing? I thought you were going to quit." "Oh, I only smoke when I drink now." "Well, yeah. Drinking." "Well, yeah, I'll work on that next." I knew people like that in college. That was a very so some of those little moments, and Freddie had some great lines too. Like he definitely did. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there were some parts where I was like, I just liked when he was on screen because I just felt like he was the more interesting character of the two. So it was like when Freddie came back in, I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be pretty interesting for a few minutes. So, yeah, there you go.
How about you, Forrest? Okay, Dave. What were you saying?
I was going to say that I will mention that the sheriff in here, the one that was trying to keep everything silent, I just recently saw him in a Michael Dudikoff a movie called Bounty Hunters and Bounty Hunters 2 Hardball. And he hasn't changed really all that much. He's just gotten a little fatter.
All right.
So how about you, Forrest? What's your favorite scene?
Well, apart from the final fight, I would probably also have to say the cornfield scene. I really like how seeing Jason, chasing after teens on fire. It just looks awesome. Looks very almost like a soldier. Like he looks like a soldier who came from hell.
Right.
Yeah.
So
doesn't he chuck the flaming machete through someone too?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the cornfield scene is probably one of my favorites. I also like the fight, but of course, the caterpillar scene.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just cracks me up.
Wasn't the dude that got speared by the flaming machete one of those frat dudes that they were talking about in that one scene?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was Freddy versus Jason. How we move. We restore our infinity loop as we go to the next trailer for the final film.
The final Friday, but for real.
We mean it this time, we swear.
Probably for the foreseeable future with that lawsuit shit.
Oh, there's no sound.
Did you know a young boy drowned here? He was my son. And today is his birthday.
Yeah, baby! You won't believe my parents' cabin. Here we are. Pretty nice, huh? All right, you ready?
Let's do it!
Yeah!
Oh, shit, I thought that was it. Good trailer.
Which you are sure to.
I'm looking for my sister. She's missing. Have you seen her?
She ain't missing. She's dead. People go missing around here, they're gone for good. There's something out there.
Gotta get out of here. Come on, you guys. Oh my god.
This place is called Camp Crystal Lake.
Shh. Pocket says.
Sure you in there? Please, open up! Help! We got the giant killing everybody!
Jason!
It's a nice callback to the original trailer that had a countdown.
Today, this is...
Yeah. Agreed. I hadn't thought of that.
So it's an early moment in there, but when he's running up to that girl and he's about to like swing the machete, like, oof! I think that's my favorite like quick moment in the movie.
Hughes Farrell in this bitch. I loved it.
It's like it looks like he's gonna bring that down so ridiculously hard. Like he winds up.
Why don't you start us off then, Dustin? Let us know what your thoughts are on this film.
Well, the first time I saw this was in college. I had been starting to explore horror movies. I saw the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which I actually didn't mind. Yes, that's... a lot of people really hate that movie, but I thought it was okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And I liked the Halloween remake as well. But this movie, at first, it didn't really click with me. Like, I wasn't as familiar with Friday the 13th. And so the first time I saw this, I was hanging out with somebody and we were drinking and we were both kind of disinterested. And so my first experience with this was kind of a lame duck period. It was sort of like, yeah, it was a movie. And then I saw it again a few years later after I had really started to appreciate horror, and it's like, this is actually pretty good. Why wasn't this more well received?
Oh, yeah. Very different. That did make a heck of a lot of money, though. Matter of fact, the most profitable of all of the Friday the 13th films.
Well, to be honest, you got Sam from what was Supernatural, and you also have the red-haired chick that plays his sister. She was in a show called The Mentalist for a while as an agent.
The dude that gets with the chick with the... Okay, let's get this out of the way here. It's the intro of this movie. Number 5 had like the best set of cans in the franchise. This has the worst. I'm not certain they aren't like a prop from the 80s that someone pulled out and had that girl use. But that guy that hooks up with her, I'm pretty sure is in that show Superstore, isn't it?
I think so.
The character's name is Trent, and he appears in the Michael Bay Transformers movie as the same character. So Optimus Prime is canon in Friday the 13th.
That's amazing.
And That's one you gotta go. Yeah, Jason versus the Optimus Prime. I think Optimus Prime would still kick his butt at this point, but they make him like Rita would appear from Power Rangers and make him grow, so that he could fight him, on equal terms. So, Dave,
got out of control.
Is this your first time, Dave?
No. This is at least my third or fourth time watching this film, and I gotta say, this is like a dark, a darker version of Jason. I do like his look, especially since we get kind of a Friday the 13th Part 2 look from him. Baghead Jason, at least at first, so that you can kind of get,
bobblehead Jason out there.
But you kind of get this potato sack looking Jason, but he's not comical at all. He is a badass killer. I mean, he is, but he's kind of ripped from Wrong Turn a little bit, and a little bit else if you know the movie, because Jason never had a home underground.
He's a little Hills Have Eyes remake in this.
Yeah,
which makes sense because it's the same company.
But I mean, I do kind of like this one because of that factor, because it is an interesting aspect it's added to Jason. Kind of like he's been on his own for like a long ass time, but I'm not sure as far as him keeping a victim, but maybe she just reminded him of his mother. Who knows?
That's the whole deal. They did the Part 2 thing with her or whatever, kind of.
Yeah.
So, Mo.
But she didn't look like his mother.
Well, she was wearing his mom's sweater, I think. Like, didn't she just oh, look at this, and put it on?
I think she just had the locket. I don't remember the sweater part, but it could be in there.
And they comment that she kind of looks like the woman in the locket to kind of throw it. So how about you, Mo? Is that your first time watching this?
Oh no, saw this one in the theater. This is the only one other than Freddy versus Jason that I was lucky enough to see in the theater when it was new. And I loved it, man. I mean, it's like they did a good job of combining kind of everything you would need from Part 1, which is just basically brief explanation and then we're into the shit. Then they sort of, spliced Part 2 and 3 together in a lot of ways and just made it its own thing with little pepperings in of the modern horror flicks that were out at the time, like these guys have mentioned. I agree with Dustin. I really like how feral Jason is. He seems really powerful and angry again. Another part I really liked is when he hops out of that trapdoor. It's like, oh shit, he's got some leaps on him.
Yeah, Derek Mears is a great Jason.
Yeah, he did a good job. You could tell he took little bits from the body language, I feel like, of all of them and kind of worked it in there, because there was moments where there was a Kane Hodder-esque thing going on too.
Yeah.
The kids were perfectly generic. Liked them a lot, actually kind of think the first group of kids was more likable than the main group of kids that we got to see. So that was a bit strange. Like they chose the turds to draw the movie out instead of using the fun kids as the main group. But you got your dude from Supernatural up in there. Everybody loves that show. So, I guess that's a good upvote for people. It's definitely something I took note of because I recognized him. I think maybe from other stuff though, because he's done other movies. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew his face.
He did the House of Wax.
Jensen. It's not Jensen Ackles. Is it?
It's the other dude.
It's
I
the
think
other guy.
Jensen's the little,
Jensen's Dean.
Sam. Yeah.
It was Sam.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen him in other stuff. So it's
overall. I can't remember his name.
He was in the remake of House of Wax.
Yeah, he was good in that.
Maybe I don't know if that predates this or not.
Oh, sorry to muddle your impressions there, Mo.
Oh, no worries, but that's pretty much it. I liked it. I thought it was exactly the way to remake Friday the 13th. You know, you just sort of take the best bits of the first ones and don't outright copy the shit, but like do it in a similar format, you know. And it's rare we get to see two groups of separate kids. I don't think it's ever happened where we got to see two groups of separate kids get murdered in one of the movies. So
Well, it was a really long intro piece, don't you think?
Yeah, it's almost like its own movie for a minute there, and then you get
right.
where it goes into, you know, that's the part 2 section of the remake, and then it goes into part 3. He gets the hockey mask.
Exactly.
Yeah, it had decent humor in there too when it was in there, which I thought was fun. Especially that guy with was about to press the button on the whip ass machine. That is a good part.
So, Jake, I know that you obviously saw this one in theaters when it came out. You're on mute, by the way. So yeah.
Oh, I was on mute.
So yeah, obviously you saw this one when it came out. I know how you are and how much you love the series, but was this your first time checking this one out?
This was my first time with this one. Although, again, it's worth noting that, as you know, if you watched our Movies Galore discussion on Halloween, that I did see that remake in theaters. And I guess this was similar in a lot of ways, that it was sort of like it followed the first movie and borrowed what it wanted to from the others. And this one's kind of in that same vein in some ways. But it's also its own creature in a lot of ways too. I found it not bad overall. I honestly would say, as a movie, it's probably one of the best in the series, with the glaring flaw of why did he keep a prisoner. And I will say, I think he did have that locket was holding him back somehow, but I still thought that was kind of a iffy. It was kind of out of character for him to keep a prisoner, I think. But other than that, in terms of him being I did think he was more menacing in this one than he is in probably any of the other movies, really, or at least close to it. And in terms of the rest of the cast, I don't know that I agree with Mo that I would have swapped out the first group for the second, but partly it's because you guys were talking about all these people from other shows, and you overlooked Daniel Panabaker, star of Flash. I've been watching her. Yeah, it's Killer Frost. Well, Caitlin Snow, and now she's Killer Frost. And I was like, I want her to go all Killer Frost on this dude's ass. She never did.
About 6 years before Flash.
And actually, yeah, it was. She was a little younger then. And actually, she almost looked more like a young Rachel McAdams in this one. And there were times I was kind of wondering. A couple of the people look like other people, but another person who we have seen before on Movies Galore, Ben Feldman, who played Richie in that first group, apparently was in Cloverfield. So we have covered one of his movies recently. But I will agree with Mo on insofar as Trent was. What's that?
I'm just admiring some sexy stuff over here.
Oh, yeah, that is. I still need to watch that. But Trent was a ginormous douchebag. And again, this is the same thing that we had for like 3 movies in a row, where the ginormous douchebag, by the way the plot's written, that he's going to survive almost to the end. And every scene he's in, I'm like, just kill him already. So that guy could have done without. But overall, and there was that wonderful, glorious moment with that one dude where I'll admit, if a guy's running a chipper, you don't walk up to him to get his attention. That was not a smart thing for our hero to do.
You run at it like Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
So we've got that wonderful line. You're effing lucky there, Stretch. Came that close to hitting the start button on the whoop-ass machine.
Yeah.
boy.
So great. He was cool about it though. He offered to sell him weed afterwards, so he's a good guy. He just,
I know. I was like, that line alone.
I had a feeling you would enjoy this one because it's. I mean, I don't know that any of them are too graphic by most of our standards, but I feel like the gore in this one is quicker, at least on the cut that we probably have since we don't have the set.
For the most part, much more bloody than gory.
Yeah,
right. That's a great way of putting it for us.
More brutality, I'd say, than that.
Yeah.
How about you?
And I will say, now that Dave has put the idea of wrong turn in my brain, thank God this was not too wrong turny. Hated that movie. Hated it.
I still haven't seen those. I have them, but I haven't seen them yet. Is it your first time, Forrest?
No way. No way. It's none of these Friday the 13th movies. It's never going to be my first time seeing any of them because I've seen them more than anybody who's any sane person should. I saw this opening on opening day. I still remember me and my friends sneaking a whole 30-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon into the theater.
Yes. Damn it, Forrest! I gotta go to the movie to do it.
That's a good choice. But yeah, no, I still remember like going with a friend. We sneaked a whole 30-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon to see this, and I liked how it really took. It did. I liked how it took what worked about the first 3 or 4 movies, and just threw them in a blender. Took everything that worked about them. Boiled them in a blender and kind of did its own thing. I really liked how. I also really liked how in this one, Jason. He's on one hand, he's definitely very. He's very physical and imposing, like Kane Hodder. But at the same time, he's also more He's more cunning. He's not as much of a mindless brute like he was in the later movies.
Right.
Agile too.
I really liked. I like a Jason I like a smart Jason. He can set traps and.
Oh yeah. He's one of the models, I think, for how they have him play in the video game.
Yeah.
It's like polar extremes in these 2 movies of how they did Jason.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you do have the killer cut. Is mine the killer? I think I just have the standard version of it, man.
Yeah, Killer Cut's actually to date is the longest movie in the whole franchise.
Anyway, continue there for us. Sorry.
Yeah. I liked how. So I liked how it took. What worked about the first few movies, but also, but then also, like you guys were saying, he's kind of like Derek Mears is kind of the ultimate Jason. He takes everything. He borrows elements from all the previous Jasons, and takes everything that works. And so on one hand, he's brutal and imposing like Kane Hodder. At the same time, he's more smart and cunning like Jason was in parts 2 and 3. He's more smart and cunning like Jason in parts 2 and 3. Like he's not just a brute. He's going around setting up traps, running after his victims.
It's got that Leslie Vernon cardio going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And the characters themselves, you're there. Most of them are your typical. Well, a lot of them literally did end up on CW shows. But a lot of them are like your stock CW, pretty CW actors. They're just there to basically become dog food. So.
Right.
Well, and the sheriff there that got basically sorted to the door. He was in a show that I used to watch called The Sentinel. So I just recognized him.
So,
but yeah, I have to agree with both. Though it's like now that I think about it, the campers from the first half were a lot more. From the first part of the movie, were much more fun characters than they were in the second half.
Oh yeah, that guy was badass. He's out there listening to Night Ranger, looking for that weed. I knew I had just connected to him immediately.
I'm surprised anybody was able to grow weed out in Camp Crystal Lake without getting without Jason taking them out sooner.
Immediately, that was a crop. It's not like there was a couple of friggin' sprouts out there. It was a small field of marijuana.
Fucking garden. I'm surprised whoever was growing it didn't die sooner.
Well, maybe Jason felt it was a noble cause. I don't know.
I mean, it could have been a fun way to explain why he would get slower in sequels if they did those.
He's lighting up too much before he goes on his killing spree.
He gets the guy at the bear trap, and he's just like, I'll be there in a minute. Like,
so he gave it up, and that's why he's kind of cranky in this one.
Let's hide behind the chainsaws.
So, this is actually not my first time surprise that I have seen this. A matter of fact, Jake has my copy of the Killer Cut because it was replaced by a.
Yes, that nice, sexy guy.
Did he just strain as he was picking it up?
This little
It's a hefty
thing. So it's one of those that's just kind of cool. I mean, of course, you can see the actual copy here. Now, I really liked it the first time I watched it. I thought it was kind of cool. I loved how fast Jason was. Watching it this time, I admit I had just been through some issues that left me very drained, so I was kind of falling asleep through a lot of it. And I was like, oh. But one of the first things that reminded me was, as Jake said, it reminded me of the Halloween remake that they did. Basically, where it said, yeah, the first film's pretty much canon, and we'll move from there. We're going to redo it from there. And at least Halloween is not in a major legal battle that's kind of stalling every project. Other than fan projects like this one is. Now, I mean, because this film was majorly successful. I mean, it turned a huge profit. I rewatched the Cinema Snob review of this, and which I don't really like Cinema Snob in many ways, but a lot of the stuff did help me a lot when it came to understanding, reminding myself about those parts that I blacked out at. And I did like his line, though. It's like, a lot of these characters are so generic, I don't even remember the names, and I'm watching the damn thing. And except for Derek, but it's only because he's such a Derek.
I guess for me, memorable characters, the douchey bro who owns the cabin.
And dude, he had like impeccable bone structure on his face too. I'm thinking that the whole time. Like, that's what they talk about when they talk about those shows.
And also Chewie, the Asian kid, because I mean, the name like that. I mean, his name's fucking Chewie. How many characters have that name in this franchise?
Just reading off a description about a guy in a movie named Coffee, which hey, it is. You got some weird names in these, but of course, plot's pretty simple. As y'all said, I mean, the first part is just a group of kids camping out in the woods, partying, smoking. They stumble upon this nice marijuana field. Jason starts killing them off. Hands off my weed. You know how it is. And then he sees this one that he says, "Oh, this kind of looks like my dead mother, so I'm going to imprison her." And
well, you don't know that at the time. At the time, you're like, I know her nose.
It can be assumed because of the clues that they leave, though.
Yeah.
Because I assumed that he took her captive at the end of that because of the locket and stuff like that.
So that's a little bit of a complaint I have with this movie. Like I said before, like one of my favorite moments is where he draws his machete and just runs at her full steam and starts the swing, and it's like, she is definitely dead. He cannot stop that in time.
Right. Yeah, there's no way. Like, what's he going to recognize through the friggin' burlap at the last second? She kind of looks like my mom in a vague...
Martha!
Oh, boy.
So
I'd rather see it just go right through her,
But then we have our second group of teens. Of course, one of them is trying to look for his, I think, sister, was it?
His
Yeah.
sister.
Which is the girl
Yeah.
that got kidnapped
Yeah.
or that he took prisoner or whatever.
And they're all staying at like this one dude's like house, and he's a douchebag. And you know what? Again, Cinema Snub's like, yeah, that's right. Rick is a freaking chair. I don't give a crap. But it's a. I looked at it as just you get your basic, you got your stoner, you got your douchebag, you got your other guys.
You're a black guy, you're token black guy, you're token Asian guy.
Now, okay, so what was the black guy that was like trying to do a rap career, music career? He was kind of trying to psych people. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, man, I'm into country music. He's like, no, man.
It's like, you think I'm putting some black guy do rap music? And
Yeah,
He's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
and then you had a couple of blondes with big boobs.
Yeah, it was your standard fare, and you've got
you got your mysterious, like, stranger looking for a sister that they run into, that dude from Supernatural, who's like the handsome guy with some type of army surplus jacket and like a hip knife, because those are a thing in these movies,
And
which
he's kind of a loner.
Part 3, where you've got more like part 4.
Part four was the brother going looking for his sister.
So, I mean, lots of little callbacks to the series. Now, what you really need to do is have Corey Feldman in this.
Yes.
And have him come in as the as a red herring character.
Oh, by the way, I should mention part four was like avenging a sister.
He could have been the what was his name, Ralph or whatever, like
Crazy Ralph.
He could have come in. He could have come in as Frogger so that they could connect the Lost Boys with the franchise.
Oh, I thought you meant the video game character. I was like, well, hell, freaking Optimus Prime.
He was trying to say Frog Brothers.
Yeah.
Well, they're all Warner Brothers properties now, so
I don't know why, but I always looked at the at the film of Lost Boys, and I thought the Frog Brothers, and then I confuse it with Frogtown. I don't know. But maybe they all cross over in one way or another. But with enough drugs. When there's enough drugs involved, everything crosses over.
Jason's already got plenty of weed, so we just got to bring some other party favors, and we're good to go.
Yes, he was probably the one cultivating.
Yeah, some Quaaludes.
Yeah, he probably has grown it himself, man.
I mean, hey, if Jason can have a whole underground lair and kidnap teenage girls, surely he can grow his own weed.
Well, and that's probably why he killed the wood chipper dude, because he didn't do shit to anybody other than steal Jason's weed. It explains the whole thing.
I mean, there you go. Yeah. Date, so
there's an alternate cut of that scene, which I think I like better, because that guy, wood chipper guy, makes a comment to Hank, Clay, whatever his name is. Clay, I think it's Clay. It's like, somebody, are you the one who's been stealing Mr. Whatever's kerosene?
Yeah.
And in the alternate cut of this, Jason is coming down the stairs of the barn while he's, sitting there looking at the magazine. Jason's coming down the stairs of the barn with these 2 big buckets of kerosene. And he turns and he's like, "Oh, you're the one who's been stealing the kerosene."
That would make sense.
And
that would
Jason,
be so much better.
Jason drops the buckets and pulls his machete, and the guy goes, "Oh, wait a minute, man! You don't need that."
Yeah, that's classic. It'd have been even funnier though if he dropped them and started to run for a minute. Like, oh shit, I got caught. Then he remembers, I can just kill this dude.
Wait a minute, man! You don't need that. I got some weed. We'll smoke it up. It'll be fun. Come on, man! Wham!
I'm guessing the main reason they had that scene was so that Jason could find the mask and change his appearance. But but the way Dustin just described, that would have worked better narratively.
They have him. He still finds it in a box in the same scene.
Yeah.
He just kind of happens to notice it, like out of the corner of his eye.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of him growing weed and stealing kerosene. There might have been some relation between the two. I don't know. Maybe he's figured out some use in the process with the kerosene.
I remember that when Double Toasted did a review on that one. It wasn't Spill back in those days, but they were talking about about Jason's protecting his weed. That's really what's pissing him off, is that they're trying to steal this weed the whole time.
It makes total sense, man. You know.
And well, here's another thought too. They could have had him like set out a bowl, in that prison where they had what's her name, Whitney or whatever it was, and like he could have set out a bowl to keep her docile.
Yeah.
What was he feeding her? Like,
I was thinking that as we were talking about it at the beginning. Like, I imagine squirrels.
Squirrels, yeah. Squirrels and berries.
And people.
Those bodies are going somewhere. He didn't have a gallery of them in this one.
You wouldn't know the difference, right?
So he did have a pit where he would dump them in this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it just
me
mirror?
On the way out.
Like you see that? Do you ever see that? You see that scene like in Scary Movie where they changed the Ghostface mask to be high as he's and then so you could see him like alter the hockey mask, have like a smile on it.
His eyes get all low. Like
I think that would have gone a little different from the vibe they were going for, but
maybe it'd have been fun for deleted scenes though.
It would have been.
People hearing this will think this is a very different movie than what it is.
Movies that play like the bloopers over the end credits or something.
Camp Crystal Baked. That's what
I'm surprised there isn't a movie with that title.
It probably is. It's probably a fan film.
If the lawsuit ever gets figured out, I think they might try to bring Jason to Dead by Daylight, and I hope that they use this version of Jason because he's much more. It's a much more athletic horror game, and I think that Jason would fit really well.
Yeah, he's got a decent moveset in this.
I also bring it up because there was kind of a funny controversy over somebody was illegally selling versions of the High Mask from Scary Movie. And the guy who owns the license from Fun World was like, we have politely asked them to stop. That happened a few days ago, and I just thought it was funny.
I can't help but think if we're talking about like future projects or whatever, if this seriously is canonically in the same world as Transformers, there's going to have to be something with that too. It's probably going to be awful, but it'll happen.
That might have been Michael Bay. Michael Bay was producer on both of these, and that might have been Michael Bay just kind of being a jerk.
It might have,
and like messing with people.
I'm sure that there's a canonical. There's some sort of connection with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too, because he produced that. So the Turtles versus Jason versus the Turtles. That would actually
be a much better ending to Manhattan than what we got.
that would be. I could see that being a thing. Actually, I could see that being a thing.
So instead of the movies that could have happened, I guess we'll talk about the one that actually did. And
we got a little lost there.
After a lot of, to me, this is how this movie goes. It has some good kills to it, but it does feel a little lost in and of itself. To me, I mean, yes, it wants to be everything that the series was. It wants to be all of the movies, all of the early movies at once, but better. And it kind of sort of gets there, but I feel like it loses something in the process. Maybe there was some character design that could have been improved. Maybe there was some plot, some sort of plot that could have been there.
It could have had a plot because there really wasn't one. It was dudes looking for a sister and teenagers get killed.
But the one thing I did rewatch was when they did finally take Jason out, and they brutally took him out in the end, this one. This was not just
chipper.
Yeah. This was not just like your typical thing. They took him out almost to the point where he wouldn't be able to come back. Then did a Jason X, and then did a Jason. That was the other thing I remember from the Cinema Snob review. Is like, and then they did the Jason X movie, ensuring that the Jason X Ender, ensuring that this one as well would have no sequels. But it did kind of end like Jason X with that mask at the bottom of the lake. It was the same basic scene.
Well, after I feel like that whole mask falling to the bottom of the mask falling to the bottom of the lake. That Jason X one, I felt like that was definitely a fake out. Whereas the final shot was a straight up throwback to the original.
Yeah, because he jumps out and grabs him, doesn't he?
Right from behind in the lake, right from behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's out there. We could see him with like some weird squirrel stitch on that mask in the future or something. I don't know. I agree, though. It does. I think, if anything, it's guilty of them being like, all right, this is just the shit that people want from a Friday the 13th movie. So we're not going to over elaborate the plot. We're going to assume they already know the deal here. This dude's looking for his sister. These guys happen to be at this cabin. They're all going to mostly get killed, you know?
They're all going to die.
I think one of the coolest things about it was how they fake you out thinking that one girl is going to survive with them, and then she gets killed at the end there, and then it's just like
I
him and
didn't
his sister.
like that.
That genuinely made me sad.
Yeah,
mainly because I liked her. I liked her as a character, and I like her because she's Killer Frost. But I didn't like that part. But
go ahead.
I think it's maybe like, you know, because that guy was probably like, yeah, I totally stole this chick from her boyfriend. That's like a sweet bonus if I don't find my sister. And then he's not getting any because she's gone. You're just stuck with your sister, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and admittedly, I guess that was one reason I kind of gravitated toward her, because even though she apparently was dating the douchebag, she clearly had no problem with leaving him alone to go help this other guy out. Like, she knew, like, okay, hang out with this guy who's a total dick, or help this seemingly nice guy do something important. And it wasn't even a contest. So I'm like, okay, so the other girl he ends up hooking up with, well, whatever. She's just this, you know, handy bimbo or whatever. Anyway, but I did feel a little bad that, as someone pointed out, the two kind of token characters kind of seemed almost like they were lumped in together. They were the odd ones out. They were each other's friends, and I'm like,
I don't like that. Why are they hanging out with this? Why are they hanging out with this douchebag?
Right, exactly.
I imagine he has good drugs.
Actually, I think Chewie said something like that while he was out in the shed or whatever. He was like, I knew there was a reason I hung out with that guy.
Oh yeah, he finds that smash hooch.
Yeah, that special hooch, whatever the heck it was.
Whatever it was.
Oh, it did. Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't hang out with a couple of rich kids that were total assholes because they bought a lot of drugs and booze. And, you know,
I think we all did at some point.
Well, I think there's one thing about many of these types of horror movies, Cabin in the Woods, a good example, where they just throw people together in these weird types, and people don't usually fall into these stereotypes fully. And that was one of the things I love that Cabin in the Woods we need to do on Inside Movie School these days. Yeah. But because it does cover a lot of that. I mean, all of those people were like, well, we aren't like this normally. They're all like, they're shades of gray. But if you're looking at this strictly from people who are stereotypes like this, they would never want to hang out with each other because they're like oil and water. They do not mix. So, but you've got to have them all together to I guess, sacrifice to the big pagan Titan gods that they in order to do it.
Right.
So that's how he grows that good weed. Those fucking pagan gods, man. Sacrifice for the harvest.
If I'm not much mistaken, Jersey is a good weed growing place. So
it's legal over there now, and it's Jamestown, Boston State.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Well, I mean, this Jason though, how does he compare to the other Jasons? Do you feel like he's better than the others? Do you think other versions are better than him? What was your favorite version of Jason?
I mean, if I wipe, no, go ahead, Dustin. Totally you first.
You go.
I think if I wipe nostalgia completely aside, this guy might be it. You know, Kane Hodder, I think, will always be default my favorite, and then the dude from Part 6 would be like second, and this would be a solid third, probably.
CJ Graham and Derek Mears.
Yeah, it's you know, this dude did a hell of a job. So if I was just going based on little moments and the way he incorporated all the sort of different body language and made him a little more athletic than we're used to seeing him. All of it together, he could easily be like well-rounded. My favorite, you know.
I mean, again, I think like this one was clearly, I think, the most there. Like he seemed the most intelligent. He seemed the most capable of surviving in the woods for all these years. Like if you're looking at it from a pure storytelling aspect, from a let's keep the level of miracle exceptions needed to enjoy the film to a minimum, he is probably the best answer for what kind of a character would have survived this long out in the woods in the middle of New Jersey. I don't think the other Jasons really even come close in that respect. And he's definitely a lot more interesting than the lump on a log in Freddy v. Jason. I admit, Mo, I agree with you that Hodder had that nice imposing presence. So, but like you didn't see him doing all that much calculating, all that much thinking and planning. You just saw him doing. You know what I mean? Like this one, you saw him setting plans. You saw him calculating the best move, you know, and so he was a more menacing Jason overall, I think.
Well, it's like you said, he's like more of a believable creature, right? Like he's not just a zombie dude in overalls. Like,
yeah,
you know,
he's not the guy from Hatchet.
He even had that little moment when he finds a hockey mask where he pauses to look at himself in the mirror, and it's like he almost has a fashion sense in this one. Like, this looks better.
It does, and you know, but one of my favorite bits of that scene is at first he picks up the sack and he's like, "Damn!" Like he, you know, checks it. He's like, "Yeah, he for sure fucking just jacked up my piece right there."
Yeah,
and thankfully he finds himself a replacement. But I was sad for him momentarily. Like, man, this dude just snatching my sack.
We're going to come back to favorites at the end. We're going to do a specialty favorites at the very, very end to celebrate our end of these Friday the 13th. But before we get to favorite scenes in this movie, let's talk a little bit about the special effects. What did y'all think of the special effects in this film?
They work. I mean,
I definitely like the makeup work for they did for Jason in this one.
I feel like they did really good with this one as opposed to the last one that we watched, to Freddy versus Jason.
It's leagues better, I think. You know, I mean, as a slasher movie, as the type of movie that it is, obviously we don't have the Jason element in here. I think in a lot of ways, this Jason would have been more interesting to see fight Freddy. Just because it would have been, you know, with the more calculating element and the better agility and stuff. I think they could have done the fight choreography a lot easier because this dude isn't just Frankenstein out there lumbering around. No disrespect to that dude that did Jason in Freddy versus Jason. I mean, he did the job the best he could. He did okay. But this dude, I think, would have been more fun. I guess is my 2 cents on that.
So, what about music? I don't know. I don't remember any. But
the score for this one doesn't really stand. I mean, apart from the part, I mean, apart from that, there's nothing about the score that really stands out to me compared to anything Gary Manfredini did.
I thought it was effective. It didn't really, it's not like super memorable, but it was effective.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of music for a lot of horror movies in this general sort of neighborhood of the 2000s, a little samey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the trailer had it as a good example of sort of like that's how trailers sound at that time, where it's like silence, silence, you know, and it's like, all right, I'm already kind of over that 2 seconds, and I'm glad you pointed out the countdown thing though. That did make me appreciate that trailer more.
Actually, the count was cool, though. Yeah, I think they did a good job of trying to restore. And like I said, they did an excellent job, apparently, because it did extremely well. But, bad timing. And with that, let's go to favorite scenes from this film. I guess we'll start with you, Forrest.
Favorite scene from this? Oh god, I'm probably gonna say Willow Ford water skiing topless, and her boyfriend gets while she's riding while this is going on, her boyfriend gets shot in the head with an arrow.
Yeah.
While driving the boat, and then she gets the machete to the head. That's just
I love that.
Just that whole that whole
Okay. I have to say that whole scene to me proved that she was about as dumb as a bag of bricks. First of all, imagine the rug burn if you were to go face plant topless while water skiing. And then the other
aerodynamic, though, I imagine it would just like slipstream off,
Well, and then the other thing, though, like the boat's coming at her, and she just sits there.
Yeah.
Instead of getting out of the way.
Underwater for a few minutes.
That should have killed her right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that scene where they got the guy with like the pavement flattener just kind of moving slowly towards him, and then just like and just like slowly until he gets run over.
Or like your movie Frankenhooker with the lawnmower. It's like.
So how about you, Jake? What was your favorite scene?
Oh, the guy talking about his whoop-ass machine. I mean, that was...
yeah.
How about you, Mo?
Oh, I mean, I think I enjoy all the kills. I don't know if I really touched on the special effects at all, but they're decent, Like Forrest put it perfectly. It's more bloody than gory, but there are some, some nasty little bits there.
Mm-hmm.
Guy with the bear trap on his leg was a bit rough. But I think
the girl in the sleeping bag.
Yeah, that was sweet little makeshift mini roast that he did there.
Twist. They keep doing the sleeping bag bit, but this time they added fire. It was interesting.
Yeah, I like that. They didn't just
very well.
I don't know. It's hard for me to really choose, man. I think like the water skiing scene might be a peak moment for me for sure. I love that thud when he pulls her up and she like hits the. And it's different because most Jason kills in those scenarios, he stabs them up from the bottom, but this time he gets her from the top and like lifts her up. Probably a.
Oh. We lost Mo.
How about you, Dave?
As far as favorite scenes go, I would have to go with the part in the intro where the dude's in the tent and he's fucking the chick and then shortly after that it's like she's in the sleeping bag and she's getting burned to a fucking crisp. And there's something about that scene that she's getting burned alive, and you're seeing her get cooked. And I was like, "Hey, anyone want some cooked chicken?"
I don't know, man. I mean, some of that silicone.
That's one of the grisliest kills. Are you?
It is.
It is such a great because they could have just phoned it in and just did another, swacker against the tree and call it a day, but they thought of something cool.
Well, yeah.
So, you were about to say something before the internet decided to kick you off. Did you want to?
Oh.
Did you need?
I think, like I was just gonna say, I think outside of the whole, water skiing and then her getting thunked against the dock there. Probably that part where he's just whipping his ass on top of that bus. And you don't see it happening, but you just see the dude getting like ragdolled against all the windows and stuff. I can never not laugh through the entire thing. So,
what about you, Dustin? What was your favorite in this movie?
It's kind of difficult to pick a favorite thing because there's a lot. I mean, I enjoy most of the kills in this. I think I most enjoy seeing Trent just kind of fall apart under pressure.
Yes.
Like I kind of like the little confrontation he has there. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds before I start getting pissed. Then what happens? He's like, ooh. And he's picking a fight with a guy who's like 6 inches taller than he is on top of that. Like, yeah, I just kind of like the whole arc of Trent being panicky and afraid and then finally dying horribly.
I did like him dying horribly, yes.
Yes.
You know what he kind of reminds me of?
My favorite character.
You know what he kind of reminds me of is that dude in Cabin Fever, the douchebag in that movie. He has kind of a similar thing that goes on in it where he ends up freaking out and then they give him the Night of the Living Dead ending where he thinks he survived but he gets killed at the very end. They should have done that to Trent. Like he just gets accidentally shot by a hunter or something.
That's another movie I know that Jake would love.
Oh, yeah.
So my favorite scene is probably the wood chipper scene, but that's just,
The wood chipper scene was great.
So I wish I could say that. I wish I could say that deleted scene. I had almost forgotten about that. Like the alternate finding of the hockey mask.
So, yeah, that does sound rad.
Yeah, you guys, it's on the extras for that killer. It's on the extras for the Killer Cut Blu-ray and the Shout Factory set. So you should find that on the disc and watch it.
Good deal.
Definitely. So we've gone a long ways. We have made a long journey from Jason's sordid beginnings, with and some fan films that we've covered as well, to our end here, because I sure as heck am not going to be covering the TV series. And
having to do with the movies.
God, let's cover them 2 episodes at a time. We'll be here forever. So the one thing, of course, we walked away with was a great idea about Jason getting high, stealing kerosene, and growing weed, and throwing off people who are trying to steal his weed.
Sacrifice to those pagan gods.
Yep.
So that's a great. So everybody get on that.
Actually, I just also wanted to add that this is. That out of all the major slasher remakes that came out, it came out in that around that time period from like 2003 to 2010. This was hands down. This was probably my favorite of all of them.
Oh yeah.
I feel. I mean, Texas Chainsaw was good, but I think this was. But whereas Halloween, it was just too much. It was Rob Zombie being Rob Zombie, to the point. He just
had too much of his stamp on it.
Yeah, it was too trashy, a little too trashy for Halloween. And Nightmare on the Street, I just found too bland. It was just too bland. Whereas this one was just, it took everything that it was just right. It took everything that worked about what came. It took what came before it, what worked about it, and just threw it in a blender and made it work.
Yeah. I mean, like the way you saw it with the cube at Pabst is probably like it's designed to be watched that way almost. It's just everything you want out of a Friday the 13th movie without them trying to get too crazy with it. Yeah. They arguably, like Brandon said, could have went a little further with it, but what we got still pretty badass.
So what I'm going to do is, as we leave our Friday the 13th journey behind us, I'm just going to go down the line here, and I'm going to kind of give you all your due and your respect for coming on, and my respect for coming on to this show with us and on this journey and ending it with us. So and then of course, so I will lead y'all on out, and then when I am finished, then you can tell us anything that we're missing, and then favorite Jason and favorite movie now that we've rewatched them all. So we'll start with you. So you, Forrest. So Forrest is a producer of many cool things, projects out there. Do you have any that you wanted to throw out there for us, new?
Well, actually, yesterday I actually had my first paid acting gig yesterday in a short mockumentary, which I believe it's called the Aurora Project. I'm looking forward to sharing with everyone when it's ready. I'm also executive producer on a web series now. It's now a movie called Toxic America, which is on Vimeo on demand. And go ahead.
No, I mean, so favorite Friday the 13th, favorite version of Jason. They don't have to be the same.
Okay, favorite movie was part 4, The Final Chapter, with Crispin Glover and Corey Feldman. And favorite Jason, I would say, this is going to be maybe the obvious one, but just due to his commitment to the role, Kane Hodder.
Okay. Which one of the movies that he was in did you think was the best version of the Jason?
New Blood. He also the best looking Jason of the franchise.
Okay. So, Jake, of course, is my co-host. Him doing some nature stuff on his channel on occasion when it happens. But if you all have been watching this channel, then I would hope that you'd be familiar with who he is. So you've watched all of these, most of them for the first time. Which was your favorite movie to see? I'm including some of these fan films too, by the way. And your favorite Jason.
I'm really not 100% sure which one would be my overall favorite. My top rated one from the 80s is still the first film, the Friday the 13th. And I'm tempted to say that this last one is pretty close. And that fan film Vengeance was pretty darn good. And that may actually be my favorite of the bunch, but it's kind of hard to say for sure.
Somebody threw out a perfectly good car.
Exactly. Those 1%ers throwing stuff away. Oh, it's good times.
So which one was your favorite Jason version? Jason Goes to Hell?
In terms of him as a killer, I think the one from the remake is clearly the best in terms of a believable character. I'm not sure that there's one that I like better. I guess I could agree that the Kane Hodder did do a really good job with what he was doing. And in terms of kind of the previous, because I consider this a reimagining of the character.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the previous imagining of the character, Hodder was probably the best one. Yeah.
So, Mo, of course, you run the Drunken Master Studios, do a lot of cool reviews and projects. Amazing channel if you like gaming, movies, some kaiju, and some many other kick-ass things. You should check this channel out. But if you have anything else that you want to say about your channel, feel free. And then, of course, favorite Jason, favorite movie.
I've been lazy as shit, so I don't have any of that going on. I'm just watching Clint Eastwood movies and Harry Potter. But if I had to pick a favorite Jason, nostalgia-wise, I think, like I said earlier, it's always going to be pretty much Kane Hodder. And then my well-rounded Jason choice used to be dude from Part 6, C.J. Graham, isn't it? And then, like, this dude, though, I think maybe has kind of at least tied with him, or maybe sort of surpassed him in some ways after watching this again. I really dig it, and so there it is. If I had to pick a favorite movie, it's Part 6 for life, Like, that's still just my favorite Jason movie overall. They're all fun.
That was one of my higher ranking ones as well. And Mo, you just put another great crossover into my mind. We're going to what the world needs: Harry Potter and the Man with No Name.
Hell yeah, that'd be badass. Clint Eastwood's out there just slinging wands or something.
So, I guess then, of course, we have David Streggy from our Inside Movies Galore, which, of course, brought most of us together here. And we discussed movies on that channel, a lot of cool things. Of course, he's not only limited to that because he does reviews. Matter of fact, he and his partner Boris put out another one today, as a matter of fact, as I recall.
Yep.
And so some more fun things. If you want to see a lot of cool stuff, some pickups, a lot of this, you should check it out. Matter of fact, tomorrow we'll be covering Jingle All the Way and
Trading Places.
And Trading Places, yes. So some very fun ones. But Dave, if you have anything else to say, just let us know. But also your favorite Jason, your favorite Friday 13th movie.
I would have to go with. It's in between 6 and Freddy versus Jason. For me, I mean, both of them were really fun. I'd love to revisit them again in the future. And as far as favorite Jason, I'm gonna have to go with Vengeance. But I generally tend to like all versions of Jason in their own way, in their own retrospective way. Even Baghead.
Hey man, that sack's versatile. How else are you going to carry those squirrels back to the Jason lair?
Right.
So, of course, Dustin here is with Crypt of Horrors, a great pickups page, which I've seen quite a bit. And, of course, you have other stuff, Instagram and Twitter. You do the Der Cryptaxis, I believe, if that's correct?
Yep. I want to try to shorten my name to Cryptaxis at some point.
And, but a lot of cool stuff. So you should check out his channels and what he's up to. When he updates, he has an amazing bit of stuff and knowledge, and some cool stuff that you don't see elsewhere. So it is worth a check out. But Dustin, what would you say is your favorite? Okay, cat. No. Bad. The cat's trying to balance on top of a chair that's not supposed to be balanced on like that. Okay. There, I'm weighing it down. Okay, good. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that.
Nice.
What was your favorite Jason and Friday the 13th movie?
Well, I think my favorite Jason is still Part 7, just because I love the look that he has in Part 7, like all ragged and rotted. And as for favorite Friday the 13th movie, well, if you count Freddy versus Jason, I would say Freddy versus Jason, because that's a movie I can rewatch over and over again, and I always enjoy it. Except for that one time when I was really sad. And if you exclude Freddy versus Jason, I think we would probably have to say... Ooh, give me a second here. Okay, more than a few seconds. I am thinking back to every single one of them. Probably 6.
All right.
6 is the fun entry.
It is one that people do tend to gravitate towards.
You can rewatch 6 You can rewatch 6 ad nauseum as well.
So, for me, I'm an oddball. Of course, I like, if I'd say my favorite Friday the 13th movie is Vengeance. It's probably one of the most entertaining ones I've ever watched. And probably my favorite Jason is Savini Jason, designed for the Friday the 13th video game.
I did not know I could use Savini Jason.
There was one that was actually specifically designed, and you had to be a backer to get it.
I have it, yeah.
So
that's what my mask for my channel is based off of.
That's such a cool design. That is like
sneaky Brandon over there. Look at this.
But if I was going to
game, Jason.
if I was going to say, like, the movies themselves. Also, I'll be off the beaten path because 5 is my favorite of the Friday the 13th movies. I love the concept. I wish they had gone with the concept of grounding it and making it sort of like almost this way of possessing him, to where you have the guy who had taken out Jason become Jason. I like that concept. They didn't run with it. It's just, it is what it is. But I also consider that Jason my favorite Jason, because I like that concept of the guy who just freaking snaps and is like, okay, there's this Jason dude. I know the lore. I'm going to do that. And that just, to me, was one of the coolest things. And I also love the kills in that one. I mean, you have the freaking outhouse kill in that one, which is... So, yeah, if we can't use the fan movies, the video games, I have to go with that as my favorite. So, with that...
Special mention for Purple Jason from the NES video game.
Gotcha. When I actually play the Friday the 13th, I play as that Jason, just because
it's amazing.
I love the music being all video game-like when he comes up on it. And I have beaten that game, the NES game. So
I with the help of a Game Genie.
Oh, it's tricky, but once you get this stupid routine down,
and I also friendly reminder to anybody who's I went to the original Camp Crystal Lake in New Jersey and survived.
He is our survivor girl.
Yep.
I have not. I've been to New Jersey and survived.
Never visited a horror movie location. I'd like to become a survivor girl one day, though. It's on the bucket list.
Well, again, when my friend lived at that converted asylum in Stanton, I got to go through abandoned buildings from the asylum. That should have been a horror movie location. I don't know if it ever will be, but should have been.
That's the setup of a horror movie, anyway. Well, we've had a long journey together, and it has been fun. But all good things must come to an end. Next time, in this time slot, we will be returning to the original Vlogcast format with a discussion about resellers versus scalpers. What's the difference? Is there one? And I think it's an interesting discussion to be had, and there are definite differences if you really want to look at it, especially at this day and age with people. Let's see, scalpers are in the news for the PS4. No, sorry, not PS4. They're really wrong praise that they're buying up PS4s, PS5s, the Xbox Series X, and the new big old graphics card that came out, which they all bought up right away and are selling like at uber price.
As Brandon and I both learned the hard way, I have no doubt in my mind that these mofos are why we did not get Violet Evergarden.
Yeah.
It's gotten out of hand this year, dude. I mean, sons of bitches were scalping toilet paper for a while there. So. It's unprecedented. You know?
And the week following that, we have this little gem to talk about. So it'll be fun.
Our anime discussion is going to be one for a very short one that even those of you who have very little time should be able to easily digest.
Yeah. It will take less than an hour.
Sexy Santas.
Indeed.
So with that being said, thank you all again, and I wish you all a good evening.